Hey everyone, this is Mariam from Tutor and Excel, and today we are going to discuss equivalent expressions. So what they want us to do here is to simplify each expression. A good step process for simplifying expressions is to first look at parentheses. Which you might remember from PEMDAS. A second step would be to combine like terms. And the third step would be to check if for a greatest common factor. So let's try to solve number 1 using this step process. We see that we have parentheses, and inside them we have 7 plus x. Because nothing is being multiplied to the parentheses, and we do not have to distribute anything, we can remove them. So that our new equation will look like 7 plus x plus 7x. Now we look for like terms. In mathematics, what we mean by term is an expression separated by an addition or a subtraction sign. So if we have 7 plus x, these are two separate terms. However, if we have 7 times x, then this is only considered as one term. The way to determine whether two terms are like terms is to see what they are made of. For example, the components of the term. For example, this is a number, and this is the variable x. Since they are not the same term, we cannot combine them. However, this is x, and this is also x. And while you may think that because this is 7 times x, not just x by itself, that they are two different terms. However, x by itself is the same thing as saying 1 times x, which is why these are considered like terms. So here we have x and 7x, which you may have been able to guess is what we are going to combine. So it will become 7 plus 8x. And the reason for that is because 7x is the same thing as saying x plus x plus x plus x plus x plus x plus x 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If we add another x, then that's just the same as saying x 8 times or 8x. And that's how we know that 7x plus x is equal to 8x. Let's try to solve number 2. So on number 2, we have 5 times parentheses 4 times x. So first we look within the parentheses, and we notice that we have 4 times x, which can also be written as 4x, which is a single term. We also know that 5 is multiplied to the parentheses, which means we have to distribute it. However, since there is only one term within the parentheses, we simply have to do 5 times 4x. In other words, 20x. Because that's the same thing as saying 4x 5 times, or 4x plus 4x plus 4x plus 4x plus 4x. And if you add all these 4s, then you would come up with 20. Since there is only one term, we cannot combine like terms, and we cannot find the greatest common factor. So this is our final answer. The reason we simplify expressions is so that when we come to solve it, it is much more simple. For example, if we knew that x was equal to 2, it's much easier to do 20 times 2 than it is to do 5 times parentheses 4 times 2. Here, we can automatically tell that it's going to be equal to 40. Over here, it may take more time to realize that this expression is equal to 40. Let's do number 3. We have 15y plus parentheses x plus 9y. You may have noticed that we have two separate variables within this equation, which may make you a bit nervous. However, I want you to remember that we are not solving the equation, we are simply simplifying it. The only thing that having an additional variable changes is that we have to remember we cannot combine a y variable with an x variable. And that is because we do not know if x and y are equal to the same number. X may be equal to 2 and y may be equal to 3. So because of that, we do not consider 15y and x similar terms. But before we do that, we want to look at a parentheses. Since nothing is multiplied to our parentheses, we can remove them. So we're going to do 15y plus x plus 9y. Since we have two terms with y in it, we can combine those two terms, 15y and 9y. However, we must remember that we cannot combine the x because it is a different variable. So 15y plus 9y is equal to 24y plus x. And since there is only one x, we know that there is no greatest common factor. So this is our final answer. Now let's do number 4. I want you to take a minute to pause the video and try to solve this by yourself before we go through it together. Okay, so looking at our process, the first thing we do is look at the parentheses. Since we have 6x plus 21, and they are not like terms, we cannot combine them. We also have nothing multiplied to the parentheses, so we can remove them. And we will have 6x Okay, now let's do number 4. Since we have parentheses, we will look at those first. We know that 6x and 21 are two different terms, so we cannot combine them, and that nothing is multiplied to the parentheses, so we will remove them. 6x plus 21 plus 14 will become our new equation. Now we know that we have two numbers and one variable x. We can combine the two numbers because they are like terms. So we'll have 6x plus 21 plus 14, which is plus 35. Now we check for greatest common factor. The way to do that, whenever it's not very obvious, is to do 6, which is divisible by 3 and 2, and 6 and 1. We can also, then we do a tree for 35, which is divisible by 5 and 7 and 35 and 1. So now seeing that the only common factor they have is 1, we know that there is no greatest common factor because any number divided by 1 is equal to itself. So this is our final answer. Now we can go to practice on some word problems. Let's first look at number 16. It says the sum of 3 and a number is added to 24. And we know from reading this part that they want us to first translate each expression and then they want to simplify. So let's first translate the word expression into an equation. It says the sum of 3 and a number is added to 24. So since it says the sum, we know that we're going to add. and we can use this keyword and to know where to put the addition sign. Then we have 3, which looks like this, and a number, which it can be any variable. However, mathematicians tend to use the variable x when possible. So it will become 3 plus x. Because it says the sum of, then we would put parentheses around this to show that the next operation is going to be done to the sum of these two numbers. It says is added, which is another addition sign, to 24, which is written as 24. So this can be read as the sum of 3 and x is added to 24. Now we can simplify. So using our original process, which is first parentheses, then combining like terms, and finally looking for a greatest common factor. We can simplify this equation. So we know that nothing is being multiplied to these parentheses, so we can remove them. And it'll become 3 plus x plus 24. And we have two like terms, 3 and 24, so we will combine them. 27 plus x. Since x only occurs once, we know that there can be no greatest common factor because 1 is only divisible by itself, which is 1. And that is our final answer. Now let's try number 18, since it seems to be a bit more difficult. It says the sum of 10 times a number and 15 is added to 11 times the same number. So let's look at the first half of the sentence. It says the sum of 10 times the number and 15. We can put parentheses around this expression. So 10 times a number, which means we know we're going to multiply. And we know a number is referring to a variable, so we can put an x. So 10 times x and 15. Using this keyword, we know that this is going to be an addition sign because it says the sum. And then 15 is written like this, and we know to put parentheses. Is added, so we put another plus sign, to 11 times the same number, which means we're going to use the same variable x. If it's said to a different number, then we would have had to use a different variable such as y. However, over here, they wanted to clarify that you are using the same variable. And now we have our equation, so we can simplify. First, we'll look at the parentheses. We know that 10 times x is the same thing as saying 10x. We also know that there is nothing being multiplied to the parentheses. So we can remove the parentheses, and it will look like this. 10x plus 15 plus 11 times x, which is the same thing as saying 11x. And we can combine like terms, which would become 21x plus 15. And now we can check for greatest common factor, which is our last step. 21 is divisible by 3 and 7, and 21 and 1. 15 is divisible by 3 and 5, and itself and 1. We see that the greatest common factor is 3. So we'll divide each number by 3, put them in parentheses, and then multiply the parentheses by 3. And our final equation will look like this. 3 times 21x divided by 3, which is 7x, plus 15 divided by 3, which is 5. And we close our parentheses. And that's our final answer. Now let's look at some other words that we may see in word problems. This says 2 sets two sets of the sum of a number and 8 are added to 5 times the same number. So this may look a bit odd to see two sets, but all that means is that you're going to do the sum of this times 2 because you want it to occur twice. So whenever you write it, it will look like this. We know a number is referring to x, and because this says the sum, we can put a plus sign where and is. We also know that 8 can be written as this, and we can put parentheses here. Since it says two sets of the sum, we're going to multiply the parentheses by 2. Are added to 5 times the same number. So added is a plus sign, and 5 times the same number is the same thing as writing 5 times x, or 5x. Now I also want to note here that because you have a 2 multiplied to the parentheses, you're going to want to distribute it to both of the terms, seeing that we have 2 terms. So it would become 2 times x and 2 times 8, which would look like this: 2x plus 2 times 8, which is 16, plus 5x. And then you can continue with the rest of our steps to simplify the equation completely, which would become combining our like terms, which is 7x plus 16. And we know that 16 and 7 have no common factors. And this is how you do equivalent expressions. I hope this lesson helped, and please be sure to like and subscribe so I can make more videos like this. If you are interested in one-on-one tutoring, please don't hesitate to contact me at my email, tutoringexcel@outlook.com.